7th, 2020. I will start with roll call. Councilmember Edens.
Here.
Councilmember Farmer.
Here.
Councilmember Garitano.
Here.
Councilmember McCune.
Present.
Councilmember Remy.
Present as well.
Quorum is present. Next item on the agenda is an election of chair and vice chair. So if we could take nominations.
I'll make a motion. Since Dr. Remy is sitting in the chair there, I would say you could be a good chair for us.
I'll second that.
Now you're a chair.
I'm okay. No, I think we have to vote on it. I'm okay with that.
Okay, sounds good. And vice chair, in case we need that. Dr. Remy, I will turn it over to you since you've actually been elected chair, so you can take the meeting from here.
Okay. Do we need a vice chair too? Is that what we're saying?
It doesn't hurt to have one in the event that you cannot make a meeting.
I will nominate. Does anybody want to be vice chair?
I can do it.
I will nominate Miss Lauren Edens.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're the vice chair. Great.
Did you get the vote, or was it together for him too?
Yeah, I think, did we do a vote for the chair? I don't think
We never did. We did not.
So let's make it official.
Yes.
So
Sure.
I made the motion for Ken Remy as
And I
chair.
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain. No opposed. Great. Otherwise, it looks like I assumed the role myself. Okay, so moving on. Mr. Anselm, do we have any public participation cards?
No, sir, we do not.
Excellent. Okay. So shall we review the current event schedule? Or do you want to?
Doctor, can I ask Dr. Remy, we have Miss Willis here from the Wildwood Business Association. Would there be any objection if we have her come up and speak? My time is going to be limited today, so I wanted to see if we can get.
If there's no objection, can we just have and we'll just flip 5 and 4? Any objection? No. Okay. Miss Willis.
So I handed out a packet to everyone. The Wildwood Business Association would like to host a new and improved Wildwood Barbecue Bash. Make it more community friendly, make it more community involved, and keep the funds from that go directly back into the community. So if you look at your packet, the first one is just a first draft flyer that I created. Here it is in color if you would like to see it. Just kind of fun and bold, whole different look. And then moving into it, recommendations for, and I'll just read down it, Wildwood Bands, Brews, and Barbecue Bash for a one-day event on September 12th, 2020. Whether you call it Q or Q, if you're enthusiastic about the culinary style, you won't want to miss this event. This event features live music, award-winning craft beers, distilled spirits for sampling, and some of the St. Louis's finest barbecue. So right there it says St. Louis. So that's one thing I'd like to change from prior years, is to keep this only St. Louis barbecues. Tickets. Before, we've never charged to actually get into the event, and we're going to keep it that way, except for one small thing. Adding the brew section, which would be requiring purchasing a wristband for $10 to get to try local craft brews. And also distilleries like Sam Burton and things like that, people that are close. And then once again, general admission for non-tasters, absolutely free. Another thing I didn't put on this part, but it is on the flyer, parking would also be free. We don't need to make that kind of money.
I think you did on the front, but.
Yeah.
Yep, free parking.
Free parking on the front.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, of course, that includes any processing fees that we do for online purchasing. And then the wristbands, like I said, you're going to have to show an ID, purchase there, and things like that, just to keep from any kids getting a hold of wristbands. The bands be their second part of it. I thought that we could start at noon and go through to 2 o'clock and making that very family friendly. I have contacted a couple kids music and magic type shows just so we can add that element of family friendly during the day. Going into the afternoon, we want to propose to have a high school battle of the bands. Our high schoolers, they all have garage bands. They're really big into music. We thought it'd be fun to have a little competition between them, having a scholarship award, but have that 3 hours dedicated to high school bands. And then 7 to 10 o'clock would be a headliner, something like Will Hungarians, Dr. Chavega, like a big name here in St. Louis. How we would do judging for Battle of the Bands is Architect Now. They're a part of our WBA. They're right here on Main Street. They've volunteered to make us an app, completely free at no cost, to where the residents can go on there and pick a band, like do an online voting, and pick a barbecue, and pick, if we get into more of like a beer festival, pick their favorite brew. We thought that'd be a great way for the residents to kind of interact a little bit more.
So, Emily, can I ask you a question? As far as the Wi-Fi, when we start to put a lot of people in one local area, how are we going to?
Well, it'll be an app, so you really won't have to have. Yeah, you can use
the app when you get here, and you need Wi-Fi?
No, we'll promote it pretty heavily to have it downloaded. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we
And we'll have the disclaimers like
Sure.
data, rates
That's
of
fine.
fly,
I
and
just
all that
wanna
kind
make
of
sure
stuff.
that we,
Yeah.
if you show up and you need to do it when you got here,
Mhm.
that kind of overload.
Right, and I think we have like a 10-hour span, so hopefully we won't get a rush of all people all at once. We're kind of going to categorize a little bit by family and then gets more into adults. Mhm. The Brews and Distilleries, like I kind of touched on a little bit there, looking at doing craft brews. So we're looking at Four Hands, Second Shift, all those kind of fun city destinations, bring them out to the county. It's a great way to showcase local beers. Maybe you don't want to go into the city for, and not a lot of people here have on tap. So you get to try some new beers that maybe you wouldn't get to try. And then local homebrew competition as well. Some people may know I'm a huge home brewer. I make my own beer. It's pretty popular in the WBA. But the homebrew competitions that we go to around the whole state, they're widely popular. And what it is you and Miller House here in Wildwoods already said that she would step up. You drop a beer off within 5 days prior to the event. We have a council that tries them, votes on them, and then they win awards. So it's kind of a fun little thing, and there's an entry fee involved with that. And any questions about anything up till now? Okay. The barbecue competition, we wanted to, I'll be real honest, I'm learning about this barbecue thing. I don't have a lot of experience with it. It's obviously not going to be what it was because we're not looking to make this like a world competition type thing. We're hoping to make it hyper local and have the local barbecue places submit, and then the public votes on them through that app, and then also incorporate that with the public being able to purchase from them as well. I know in the years past, myself included, have been going through the barbecue fest looking for food. Yeah. So we hope to have it as a competition, like have taster samples, but then be able to purchase so those businesses also get, business out of it, which is what we're all here for. We're hoping to do a chicken, pork rib, pulled pork, and beef brisket, and then have an award for those. Then I kind of went down into 2020 sponsors. We set up 4 different sponsor levels. Gold would be 1,000, and we're still kind of saying what you're gonna get from those, but it'll be like online recognition, banner recognition, all that kind of stuff that goes into it. So we've got a gold, silver, bronze, and then a bestie of the batch.
That donation would be to the WBA, which would be a tax deduction.
Correct. Yeah, we are a nonprofit.
So the sponsor money goes back towards the WBA and the ticket sales, or does the ticket sales work?
So the tickets, all money collected besides, food vendors and beer vendors and that kind of stuff would go back to the WBA. And I'll get more into that. The next pages are expenses. The WBA is not looking to make money off of this. Actually, we can't make money off of this. We have no desire to make money off of this. So what we propose is we have this budget. I know that the council, you guys already put $35,000 to this. We're hoping to use that money up front and repay you. And then a portion of the beer sales, we're going to work with the Rotary Club, and we came up with a 50-50 split on that. And 50% of that beer sales is going to go to our Winterfest. We're hoping to have a new awesome tree, lots of lights, lots of decorations, better food options, just make it, 20 times bigger than what we had last year.
So Emily, I want to make sure I'm hearing this correctly. This is really good here. I mean, tax deductions for sponsors because it's the WBA. And then your intent is that the money up front, I guess if you recoup those costs, those would be repaid back to the city?
What I'm handing you now is, obviously this is just a potential, but this, so what I'm handing you now is a potential income. So this is a repayment to the city. Like I mentioned before, the WBA does not need this money. We can't have this money. So we'd like to repay the city a portion of this. So the beer competition, we put that as a $10 entry, and that's for per bottle. And they can turn in up to 3 different flavors. Okay? And we're hoping if we at least get 100, then that's $1,000 back to you. Wristbands for 21 and older to do the beer tasting. If we get 200 at $10, that's $2,000 back to you. And then other expenses that may come would be multiple people entering, just the more money we get, the more money it comes back to you. Our sponsorships, if we get 5 gold members, that would be $1,000 piece. That's $5,000 back to you. 10 silver entries would be at 500 is 5,000 back to you. Mm-hmm. It goes so on and so forth. And then the bottom part for exhibitors and vendors, company booths, that would be our WBA members and Wildwood businesses. We are going to cut this off to people who are eligible to be in the WBA, which is just our surrounding areas. We're not looking to have all those national companies that just go festival to festival selling their stuff. We're looking to make this hyper local. So if we get 50 vendors, which I feel really confident that we can, that's $5,000 back to you. Food vendors, we're going to charge them $75 a piece, and that's $750 back to you. So the total income up top that would come back to you is $26,750 is estimated.
2 questions related to this.
Sure.
First, let me just take a step back.
Sorry, it's a lot of information.
No, and so some folks may know this, but when this all occurred with the original issue, Joe and I talked to Frank, and first and foremost, we're actually really happy and thankful for the last 11 years of the barbecue bash that Frank's put on. Mm-hmm. He's worked hard, and he deserves our respect. We certainly reached out and spoke to him, and we spoke to a number of people, and we've been working with Emily for about maybe 8 weeks or 7 weeks on this. And there is nothing so gratifying, and I'm proud that you guys are doing this, and it's amazing that you guys are doing this and actually giving back. This is unreal. This is exactly what people, I'm sure, would look forward to. But I do have some couple questions. So our hope is to have this, so there's some clarification here in front in Town Center, Main Street through City Hall.
Yes.
So we'd have this whole area so that it'll be in a centrally located area. Mm-hmm. Are there going to be prizes for the bands?
Yes. So
okay. Is that in there too?
In the budget, there's a $500 prize.
Perfect. Okay.
And then part of the Rotary Club, they give scholarships, so they're volunteering some of their beer money to go towards scholarships for the Battle of the Bands.
And that's the other thing. The Rotary and some folks from Metro West and other locations have also been really helpful for this. It's great to see all those people get together. I think you have a question, Crystal, and then when you're done, I have another statement too. Lauren, sure.
So I don't know if Sam, you're going to have this, is so the $75 entry fee, when we've had other vendors attend different things here, is that usually the going rate that we've charged past vendors?
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't believe we charge, like for example, for Celebrate Wildwood, I know we didn't charge vendors for ice. So that was one of the attractive reasons that we got vendors for that event. I don't know if there was actually a vendor fee for that. I can check and let you know.
I just want to make sure that's comparable so we're not cheaping ourselves or making it different. So let's make sure that's a standard cost.
So,
that's what comes to me.
I own a marketing firm here in Wildwood, and part of my services is events. Okay. So it's actually really cheap.
That's what I thought. Yeah. And I just want to make sure that we're not going too cheap when we have charged higher. So we
the
find,
reason I put it at that price is, once again, we're not looking to make money. We're
Sure.
recouping a very large portion of what our budget would be.
Okay.
And these are all our local businesses, so we don't want to charge them what they'd have to pay to be in Baldwin Days.
Okay.
So Baldwin Days is $250 for a vendor.
that's what I thought. Okay. And then I just have one more question, Chair. And I don't know if we know this answer yet, but the prime construction, I just want to make sure that they're not starting groundbreaking or
This
stuff.
would be a street festival. It's not going to be on the prime location.
No, but when they're doing trucks or the construction that breaks ground, you're
Well, I
going
think
to
the
have a lot of
timing-
construction
I
stuff.
believe that's not till late October.
I think we could manage that with some traffic control as well.
I just want to make sure that that's not crossing over with our event because it's going to be muddy and disgusting.
Miss Edens?
Yes, this is a great presentation. Under publicity on Facebook, I see the $1,000 line item. I know ads, the digital ads are not terribly expensive, so how did we get to $1,000 for that?
Because I want to reach a lot of people quickly.
Okay, okay. And next question on the insurance policy for 300 under miscellaneous. I'm assuming that our city insurance would cover our end. Is that extra 300 for WBA insurance that you
Yes.
need as opposed to just us? Okay.
So we currently have event insurance, but we have not done an event of this scale. So I talked to
Okay.
Mike at American Family, and he said it would be better for us to up our policy, even for a short time, to cover this. And so that's that cost.
Okay. And one idea too is I wonder if Mazingo Music, since they're locally owned, would underwrite any of the local band, if you have reached out to them.
I have not, but I will.
Okay, just an idea.
Mr. Farmer?
Yeah, this is awesome. Really well put together.
Thank you.
I only have one, maybe very small suggestion. And if we're going to do a beer bracelet, which I think is a great idea, it might be possible to do the same thing with the food. So then that way the vendors have a better idea of what they should be preparing for. I think that's kind of sometimes what goes on. The other thing, I don't know if this is a real thing or not. I know that in the past, I think there's been some issue with the barbecue people not having the right facilities or something to be able to sell food. I may have made that up in my head. But if that's the case, that's not a big deal. They can probably donate that food to a vendor that can actually do that in a more efficient manner.
Do you mean like the ones that... point of information, are you talking about like the vendors that were at the barbecue bash that didn't have the deep fryers and things like
all
that?
of that
to
stuff
sell-
where they
okay.
can't keep track. So the idea would be like if we're going to have, the pulled pork guys, and we already know going into this that people have bought bracelets that are going to say, whether they show up or not, we should be planning for 250, 300, 500 people, whatever it is. We're prepared for that. And if there's a health department issue of some kind in terms of being a vendor, I would imagine that we could probably work with either a food truck or a different kind of a vendor that would handle the food and the people are just providing it to them.
And Emily, just in that point then, so it'd be nice to know from, say, Benedetto's what their normal Saturday covers are, because we may be able to also ask if they would be willing to actively participate. And although I appreciate the 26,000 estimated that's coming back, some of that could be cut down if Benedetto's would be willing to be able to receive their normal covers and kind of move forward, and that would allow for that.
Agree.
And I think, Milk and Honey should be up and running by then. I think they'll have a full kitchen at their place, I would assume.
I don't think their intention is to have a full kitchen. That's what I heard. Yeah, I don't know. I just know they will not be using it. Yeah.
I don't think it will be there.
I just think it's the idea that you can get a good idea of what, we're not going to run out of food. And then the bonus money is if somebody wants to just go over and buy a chicken sandwich, they can do that. But it's always nice to get people to tell you they're coming and pay in advance. That works well. This is awesome.
That's another thing where I think like Facebook will come into, because we plan an event, usually get about 50% of who says they're coming on Facebook. It's a golden rule of thumb.
Two things. So I know Sam's going to talk to us about the fiscal health of the community and what we have to give up front versus reimbursement. If you had to cut something to bring the cost down up front, what could you cut, or what would you do it for if you had to do it for less? Just might be rhetorical and come back up in 5 minutes. And then my next question, as I'm thinking about the pieces of the pie that have to go around, I think the idea with the Rotary Club on the 50-50 split for some money to go back into Winterfest, are we talking $2,000, $5,000, no clue.
So last year, granted it was a 3-day event,
Yeah.
they made $75,000 in beer sales.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Is that enough, Lauren?
Well, yeah, I mean,
So we don't need to cut anything from this.
I
You're running this lean already.
I am.
Yes.
And of course, like I said, we want a portion of that beer sales to go to, like the WBA gets 50% back. And then even the Rotary Club is like, wait, you're going to use it for a community event? Like, let us know what else you need. So
Right.
if more needs to go back to the city, like I said, we're not here to make money.
okay,
at all.
that would be good because the one problem is if, you're right at 34,600, if you would even go over by 2,000, it doesn't exist for us to give you back without deficit spending. And so it's a tight ship. I mean,
It does exist within the WBA as well. We have
You
a
have-
surplus of money as well.
Okay.
And we have the businesses who are amazing and they donate so many things to us.
And I will say, just from my experience with working with Emily, if she believes she can get 50 company booths and 10 booths and 20 booths for beer tasting, she can. I mean, I cannot say that enough. You can, I believe you will
People
do that.
like me. I don't know.
Yeah, they do.
Ms. McCune.
So, am I missing it? Is city resources going to be needed from staff, from us, for any part of this?
Yes. Right? It's
So-
built into the
We have 25 volunteers who already stepped up within
police.
for the volunteering of helping with park and stuff, but we will need police activity. For sure.
But we don't need city staff like a Joe Vunich or Kathy or anything with Wildwood. Just trying to think through everything to see what would possibly
Be hard to
looked at
keep
that.
Joe away, I know.
I know. I'd like to give him a break.
But
Is there
a
a
possibility, depending on how quickly we can get vendor tents up. I know that we like to use the city tents because they're here and available. I told him I would do it at Winterfest, and by the time I got there, he had them all up. So
Just maybe if there's a way, I mean, I know the estimated coming back, maybe that could be less and we can allocate perhaps funds specifically for the city for the
City.
staff part, if that's
Absolutely.
feasible.
I don't know that we have a separate budget for the police for this event. So maybe
So- I did talk to Joe, and I asked him about policing and like should I put 3,000 towards
3,000.
it on ours?
Yeah.
But he had no clue. He was like, I don't know how that works. So
But I'd
I've
like-
done it in the past. That's probably good.
Yeah, so the police thing, I would look at a little bit closer to see if you want to hire them off duty versus while they're on duty, because then it's overtime, versus secondary, which they love secondary money, if the county police allows it, so we can save money on that.
Okay.
And they'll dress up and do their thing, but we
that's
won't need
why I
them on
allocated
actual patrol.
$3,000 to it.
Yeah,
I
so
wasn't-
I would look at that avenue
Okay.
to see if that's a possibility to keep that cost low for security.
One additional question is related to the morning of Saturday will still be our farmer's market.
No,
but it'll be at a different location.
It'll be
Farmers
up-
market's up here.
up the hill.
We're
It's
going to
down
try to
west.
stay more
Down here, right, okay.
oh, it will be, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make,
I was thinking of the other one.
so
But the tents,
the tents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's going to be an up-down situation.
I
But
think,
I'm going to encourage a lot of the businesses to bring their own tents, which I know I participated as a vendor at the barbecue bash. My clients have, and we've always brought our own tent. So I'm going to encourage that.
so I think this is outstanding, and the money was already allocated for a barbecue bash, which is what it was already voted on, which is nice because if we allocate the same amount of funds, we don't have to go back to council, from what I've already understood directly from the city. Sam, is that true? It's already been voted on as an allocated expense for this reason.
That is true. If we're going to be entering into any sort of agreement with the WBA, I believe that would need to go to council for approval and authorization.
Okay, so the budgetary discretion won't, but actually the contract will.
That would be my recommendation. But
Sir-
you could also have the budgetary discussion at that time if you.
Is there a motion to accept this?
Well, we'd like to hear from Sam first about the general budget. And I feel better about this now, knowing that we're going to get some money back. My panic button on fiscal health has been quelled, but I'd like to hear from our city administrator before we get a motion on the floor. So that's all right with the chair?
Actually, I'd rather have a motion. I think we can talk about unrelated things for budgets not that were allocated for this reason at a different time.
I suspect, and without talking to the mayor, I would imagine the purpose of the committee is to decide what they would want to recommend, and then
It's a
we can take
recommend-
that to the council at some
Yeah, I
point. So a
think-
motion at this point, I don't think is out of order.
Well, that's why.
Sorry,
I was-
Joe and then
I was-
Crystal.
No, that's fine. That's what I was raising my hand for, our goal is to just provide that recommendation on this. And hearing the news tonight that, in the good scenario that you presented here, we would recoup most of those costs. That's a good thing.
That's novel.
That's a very good thing. And I like the fact that there's even a portion that's going to go towards the Winterfest, which is another concern of mine because that was such a great event and I would love to see that. So the residents have spoken a lot about this. We saw the reaction and, they are expecting something like this, and to deliver anything else would be probably a big disappointment. And I just love the fact that we have this recommendation. So if it's okay, what I want to do is make the motion that we proceed with this recommendation as presented by the Wildwood Business Association. And then that would be the motion, basically, to present the recommendation.
Point of information.
Yes.
So the reason why I had wanted to ask for Sam was just because I didn't know if it needed to be included in the original motion, that other than the Winterfest getting, we'll call it first dibs, for lack of a better phrase, that we want to send the rest to the general fund, or to the salt if it runs over budget. I just didn't know if we needed
I think
that
a separate-
attached, because I'm afraid we're going to get all this money back and then it's going to be
Well,
applied to council again.
That's a fair point. I think maybe a motion for recommendation of this is one motion,
And then-
and then a
Okay.
secondary motion, since the funds would be recouped from this event, would be that we would maybe want to recommend that there be a portion designated for, the Winterfest.
The WBA would be setting up a completely different bank account from ours, and so we can provide financials at any time to you.
And that's important. We want to make sure that we have that as open, transparent. So if that's okay, I think you need a second.
I do.
I'll second it. Okay.
Ms. McCune would like to second the motion. All in favor?
Aye?
Any opposed? Any abstains? All right, that motion passed. And do you want to make a second motion?
Yes, so Sam does the... Sam, what I suggested earlier about either the excess going back to general fund, does that sound acceptable, or?
Assuming the money that was originally allocated for the barbecue bash is going to be prepaid to the Wildwood Business
Correct.
Association to run the event, that comes out of our general fund. So any revenues we would receive would automatically go back into the general
general
fund.
Okay,
for
so
accounting
then-
purposes.
Okay, so
It would
I
just
guess...
be received as revenue.
So let's do
offset the
this. So
expense.
I would like to make the motion that recouped from funds from the WBA received by the city from the replacement barbecue bash will first be considered for Winterfest, holiday decorations, and other holiday-related expenses. And whatever is not used will go back to the general fund.
Okay, there's a motion. Do you want to second that, Mr. Farmer?
Can I ask a question about it real quick?
Sure.
Is it possible to have it go back in the general fund for the repeat of this event the following year? Where we kind of pay it forward? So if perhaps there's $10,000 remaining, then next year we need, if it's going to be, again, a $35,000 investment, then we can add on to that.
I would say, since there's a chance that we might have additional costs that would cause us to cut something else mid-year, that we would go ahead and put it back in the general fund and then
Yeah,
put
I
it
just
as a
mean
line. No, I understand.
if
what
it's
you're saying.
left at the end.
I'm just worried we're not going to have a balanced budget by the end of the year based on the information Sam sent. So I'd rather it go to general fund, and if Public Works needs it, Public Works needs it. And then next year, when we do the budget, we can try to put this as the same line item for the same $35,000.
And I'm really hoping that beer sales will cover all of Winterfest.
Yeah.
That would be lovely.
It would be
All right,
amazing.
then I'm good. I'll second it.
I'll go to Ms. McGee, but one question I do have before. There's no reason why we can't actually have the money back to the general fund, but out. So the WBA presents that revenue to the city, but they can also direct the funds, I believe. And they can say, we'd like to direct $26,000 with the first $10,000 or $12,000 or whatever we think that's going to be needed once we know. I think they can, actually, because it's a donation back to the city.
I think they could. My only hesitation would be the money that we're fronting to them, the full 35, is going to be coming from the general fund, and
It's
so
more of a reimbursement,
it would,
maybe.
right.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yep.
Sorry, Crystal.
Yeah, if this were a straight-up donation from WBA, absolutely, they could designate it wherever they wanted it to go.
So I guess I'm just confused on the motion then. Is a motion really needed? Because by the rules of what you're saying, regardless of, because we're giving the money and then it has to come back into general fund for the regulations, I think that this motion is a moot point. Because there's no way that we can allocate it at this time, and council would have to kind of look at it. So making a motion to say that it's going to come back in, and
But I
is
think we
that
can
needed?
make a
Nothing,
recommendation.
no disrespect, but I just don't know why we would need it.
Because it's the purpose of the. I'm afraid because it's an existing event that has no earmark whatsoever, that it's just going to get through the cracks if we don't, I mean, because that's kind of the purpose of the committee, is to decide what money gets spent on which event. So if it's not out of order procedurally, I'd like to keep the motion as seconded. If that's.
Which event you talk about, the barbecue bash?
No, just that the money that comes back through reimbursement, that we as a committee have decided we will consider Winterfest first for the funding. That's the motion on the floor. And the rest, whatever we don't use, goes, to general funding. In fact, I would even recommend that, however many months from now, between September and October or November, this committee could even meet again and decide exactly how much Winterfest needs.
Yeah. Well,
I'm starting a budget for Winterfest.
Perfect.
Yes,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Caratano.
no, I was just wondering, how, if it's in scope of what we have here for discussion in the agenda. Like, I think this is about, and I don't have the original documentation that was provided in front of me now, but for forming the committee, I'm thinking, like, is it an item that we can make a motion on to vote on?
I believe it is in the scope of the committee, because the scope was a general events committee with the barbecue replacement funds, and not just a barbecue bash replacement committee. So as long as the city administrator doesn't have a problem with that.
But I think if we have a replacement that's meeting 1-to-1 for the money that was already budgeted, and we're allocating that same amount, then the committee served its purpose. Am I wrong? Does anybody?
As opposed to deciding what to do with the leftover money?
I think my thought, I don't know, is
Let me look.
there's a Wildwood Commission for celebration, because we still have Celebrate Wildwood. We still have Parks and Planning has a number of events. Obviously, this event is fantastic, and I like the concept that this money is going to go back to that. But I don't know that this committee has the purview to be able to delegate where that money goes.
I don't think we do.
Am I wrong?
I don't know. I kind of think it does. I totally get what you're saying. I'm hopeful that it does, largely because when we go to make sure that we still have a balanced budget, 4 months from now, I can tell you if I have to choose between a pothole fund and an event fund, I'm going to make sure that the public safety, I just think what's going to happen is if we don't earmark it towards an event, it's not going to be there. I mean, that's
Generally, the intent, or my plan would be, since this money is already budgeted out of the Parks Department
okay.
for the event, the revenues would go back in for the Parks Department.
But that could go to Parks
Even though we have
Maintenance.
issues with snow removal, potentially, yeah.
Yeah, so see if it goes to park maintenance. And this is, I'm afraid the only way to get that 50% split with the Rotary Club for the drinks is to earmark it in this.
No, that's a separate deal. The beer money is completely separate. That has nothing to do with the
Then the
city.
26,000 coming back.
You guys are discussing 26,000. That's what I'm saying. The beer money should cover Winterfest,
already
and I
got the
see
money.
that that's
Regardless,
your
right.
issue.
Well, but we don't have any for decorations or anything else besides that.
I know,
So-
but
Yeah.
if we,
Can I ask you a question about that? So just in regards to this, everybody agrees this is a great event. It's going to be on steroids this year, and it's going to be even better. So assuming we've already allocated $35,000 for this, okay, assuming that you get the money for what you're thinking back from the beer funds, and assuming that, you estimate potentially 26,000, but let's say it's 16,000. It's still 16,000 more than we were getting back with the original allocation for these funds to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
We weren't getting
yeah.
anything back. In fact, we probably were going to have to try to be convinced to allocate potentially another $20,000 to meet back the 51,000 that we had, or 55 the year before. So is there anything stopping you, and I'm not saying that this, I'm making a recommendation, would be can the WBA retain funds for the event that they're going to co-sponsor in December for increased decorations?
Well, some of the point of information, some of the decorations need to be at City Hall. Like, the city needs to be the one that pays for the lights on City Hall.
But they can provide
Not
as
their
a
job.
as a gift the decorations.
I'd have to check with our accountant because we follow nonprofit laws,
Right.
and so I just I don't want to
Yeah.
I don't want
No.
to do a for-profit event.
Right.
So I just have to double check on that.
Yeah, I just don't want to pass too much on to you because it's not your job to make sure that we have lights on City Hall. Like, it's really not.
But
That's
as far
our
as-
job.
I know it's a separate conversation, but as far as Winterfest goes, the WBA, we did our budgeting in December. We've already allocated money to it, and then we are doing beer sales for it. So as far as what the tree and up there will look like, we got that covered.
Oh, yeah, and
as
I
far
mean-
as City Hall,
I know.
I
Yeah.
don't
In my dream of dreams, I had money for a portable ice skating rink. So there's always other things we can add, but that won't end up happening. But in the future, it's on
but
my
yeah, I
to-do
mean,
list.
if I'd love to reach our goal of getting you guys $24,000 back. If it's 16, I'll still be happy.
Right.
If it's 10, I'll be happy.
So is my motion out of order, or can it stand? And is it necessary? I feel that it's necessary because
If you could restate the motion exactly, so I'm
I think
clear.
the motion that was that money recouped from the barbecue bash would first be considered for holiday event expenses, and that included decorations at City Hall that we would own and things of that nature prior to going back to the general fund.
I guess my only concern is, I understand, but I'm just there are a number of other events that are going to say, how come we cut how much from the Wildwood to celebrate our 25th year celebration? How much money do we?
We cut 35,000, I think, from that.
And I'm not. I don't want to pit and just say we're selectively choosing money coming back from something.
I think the reason is because this one wasn't budgeted at all, and the other ones were cut, but they still exist as a line item. So that's just where I'm coming from.
But that's
Wait.
not the purpose per se. I don't think of this
Barbecue
committee
bash
though.
was
That's the
budgeted.
problem, right?
Yeah. All right, so if I could,
Please.
the only thing that concerns me is that it's starting to become more of a budgetary
Yes.
discussion, and I think it would have to be posted on an agenda item for someone that would wish to have a discussion around budget. And so I think we need to go back to what our original intent was, the recommendation of what would be the event based on the money that was allocated. I just feel we might be crossing the line when it comes to then starting to think of subsequent downstream events and where that money goes, because you can kind of go on and on. I would recommend that we put it on the next Planning and Parks Planning and Parks meeting agenda to address it there. I would feel better that it's on an agenda, and therefore, we are meeting the rules there. I just feel we're getting a little bit beyond, but I'm supportive of, I want to make sure you're clear, I'm clear. I'm totally supportive.
I'll withdraw the motion then,
Yeah.
if that's okay with my second for the motion. And then
Totally
I guess
okay.
my question for Sam and for you is, at this point, since we're just in hypotheticals, and if it's not appropriate now, do you just want to wait until we see what we're reimbursed? But my only concern is, once you get to September, then you've only really got 2 months. So if you're ordering things, or if you're getting on a work schedule, you're already too late by December. So that's the only thing.
Well,
I don't know how much we're working with, but by the time I know how much we're working with, we're already behind the 8 ball.
I think we
Ms.
can at
McCune.
least plan a hypothetical scenario for, we can pick a conservative figure to say, we think we would feel strong confidence in recouping so much dollars. And then putting it in the next Planning and Parks meeting agenda to say, look, we want to make sure we're dedicated. I just feel better that way.
Okay.
Because we've had times
Once
before
we
where people
start
have questioned
selling,
that.
once we start selling sponsorships and selling wristbands, I can keep you abreast of how much money we are recouping throughout
Okay.
the way.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Is the Winter Fest event or the Celebrate Wildwood, does it also have the potential for sponsorship?
Yeah, so that's how I funded the entire Winterfest last
Just
year.
all sponsorship?
100%.
What about the Celebrate Wildwood?
WBA is not involved with that one. so-
Yeah, I know. Sam, do we ever do sponsorship for that celebration?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Like celebrate and give $500 and
Celebrate-
then get a tree with your name on it or something?
There is sponsorship for Celebrate Wildwood, yes.
Yeah, I know they sell booths.
We have booths, we have, sponsorships available for that. Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'll tell you, if there was, I would sponsor $500 to get back it and then have a dunking booth with Garitano up there.
I think that would be a great fundraiser there.
I would do it.
We could
I'm
see,
serious.
I
Dunk the
encourage all
council.
council members to
I will dunk the council,
participate.
and I will sponsor that booth.
That
And
would
that
be-
money will go towards decorations if I'm allowed to put that allocated. Promise.
There we go. I will get dunked for that.
All right, so our motion is passed, Ms. McCune, and then we're going to move on after that.
So switching gears, the only thing I want to ask is that maybe we could recommend to go to council is that instead of having the line item called Barbecue Bash, I'd like to go ahead and make that name change now based on bands, brews, and barbecue to get away from Barbecue Bash.
That's great. Is that a motion or just?
If I could,
or just
can I
need
make the
language?
motion for the recommendation for the change? Or how do we do that with you as far as the budget and the naming? I'd like to get away from it because it just seems to have this, we're starting fresh.
I think you want, yeah, you're right. And even there might be some issues because the name technically may still be owned or registered by the
Yes, we don't
previous
own
party.
we weren't able to obtain the name or the Facebook page or the website.
So I think this committee should go ahead and start changing and getting away from calling it Barbecue Bash.
Right.
And start now that we say that this
You
is
mean
the
the-
band's
the
brews
four
and
Bs.
barbecue.
The Bands, Brews, and Barbecue
Yes.
event?
Event.
Yep.
It is
Okay.
called Bash because
There we go.
Bash.
I wanted to keep
Yes.
Yeah,
it
the Bash.
familiar.
So if you can just name it, Sam, that's the motion? She seconded it?
And I want to be clear at the council meeting, what our intent is, it's to vote on the contract. The money's already been budgeted and allocated for this event.
You just need to make a disclaimer.
Yes. Okay. That sound reasonable?
It does. I'll want to
Once you work on it.
get some clarification,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I believe we're okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Quick question.
Yes.
Do we need to, would, I mean, right now, we're pretty much done as a committee. Are you, I mean, do you need us for anything else as a subcommittee and meetings in the future? Would you rather work with planning and parks? I mean,
She'd rather work by herself without us.
yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
Which is probably the best thing. Let her work with city employees directly.
Yeah.
I work pretty good with Joe, Julian, Sam, so
Okay.
I think we can handle it from here.
We should get out of your way.
So motion
Can
to
I,
dissolve the
yeah,
committee.
I was going to say, can I make a motion to dissolve the committee?
Should we first just see if Sam has anything to talk about? Or
If we're moving on to the next item, just wanted to be available to answer any questions. I'd provided to the committee members just a breakdown of the events that we currently have, as well as the staff time that's spent from the Parks and Planning team members on conducting those events. I think the request had been made at a previous, maybe a budget meeting last fall for, how much time staff is spending on events and on meetings. So I just wanted to, I've got the first piece here, the events, but I don't have the meeting times just yet. But available certainly to answer any questions on these items if you have those.
would you be able to put that onto the admin public work schedule agenda?
Yes.
Is that okay with you, Joe?
Yep. Mhm.
Okay. If there's no objections, if there's a motion, I don't want to say to disband, but you want to just postpone until
Necessary.
necessary.
Yes.
I think you actually have to have a date or something other than a phrase necessary.
Okay.
Or-
Would you like to postpone this ad hoc meeting for a minimum or for 6 months?
I think, a point of clarification, this is an ad hoc committee, so if there's a need to call it again, we can just call it again. So
You don't need a motion to postpone.
I would adjourn. I don't think we need a motion to
Okay, just
postpone.
adjourn. Is there a motion to
adjourn the meeting?
Motion, okay, not debatable. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you.